Thank you very much. So I want to take the privilege of starting off and letting you know that I had a great conversation yesterday evening with these remarkable younger people. We have to come to an agreement how we're going to address
Okay.
But the reason why I'm doing that is because while sometimes people want to stand in awe of the work that they did, I'm not. I'm very excited about their work, but I'm not in awe because I know that we all have so much potential. And as I sat here listening to the conversation about AI and other things, I remark about how we have not been as excited about educating people and making sure that everyone gets to develop the talents and the skills that they have in this 3D physical world. And so I want to just start off by acknowledging that and saying that children live up or down to our expectations. And I think that clearly you all had people that you were around from time to time who expected that you would be able to do lots of different things. Now, we've heard about some of the work that you've done, and I told you that last night I was gonna ask you today to give me a 1-minute synopsis of your project, including some of the nitty-gritty science detail that we got out, not the top level, the second and the third level, okay? Mm-hmm. And who wants to start? Sirish, you wanna start?
Sure thing. So I'd be happy to tell you a little bit more about my invention. It's called Pestiscan. It's a handheld pesticide residue detector for use on produce items at home. 70.6% of all of our produce here in the US contains pesticide residues. And when consumed over long periods of time, pesticides have been linked to various health issues, from neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's to certain cancers. So if we could detect them, it would be easier for us to reduce our consumption. And with that, we could reduce these health risks. Pestiscan works on this basis of spectrophotometry. The general idea is that when light bounces off of a material, each individual material will reflect light differently. And so produce with pesticide residues will reflect light differently than produce without pesticide residues. And that's at the core of how Pestiscan works.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you to get into a little bit more detail. How did you end up making this? Talk about what the design was.
Sure, so I started out just by reading some papers and learning more about what had already been done in labs to try and tackle the problem of determining if there are pesticide residues present. And so I came across technologies like Raman spectroscopy that work on a somewhat similar basis that were used in labs already. And I felt that we might be able to move these technologies out into the field.
Okay, remember what we did last night?
Oh,
I want you to give me the nitty gritty. How did you make it? What did you do? You had pieces and parts you put together. How did you get them?
So I went looking around to see what kinds of parts would be best to try and get this out into the world. And so with my parents, I was able to get some of these parts online and then start working on it at home, after school, on the weekends, on breaks, trying to get this together. It took almost a year to get it done.
Yeah, the reason why I'm asking that is because so many times things sound like, oh, well, it was just easy. But I heard you told me that you went online, you did Google, Amazon, you're looking for places. You finally found a small item that you could get easily, and you put it together. We're going to come back to that, too, and how you put it together. But first, I want to call Dasia. Tell us about your work.
Yeah, so I developed color-changing stitches to detect infections. Started as a science fair project, is now a fully fledged medtech startup. And the nitty-gritty of my experience is not very pretty, as the nitty-gritty is not. And I originally started, and COVID happened. So we spent Fridays in a lab every Friday afternoon working on the development of these stitches, myself and my chemistry teacher. That was the only expertise I had in the very beginning. And It took me 6 months to build our first prototype, which I launched for a science fair.
How did you detect infection?
That's a good question. So we use beets, which is kind of the wow factor of a lot of my work when I talk about it. Beets are a natural indicator. Our skin is naturally acidic, having a pH of around 5. When we have infections, that pH increases to 8 or higher. Beets change color coincidentally, 8 or higher. And so we're able to detect the pH imbalance, which is one of the first signs of infection. The purpose of the sutures in and of themselves were to really combat early detection of surgical site infections, where all other symptoms of infection are very similar to that of someone who just got out of surgery. Redness, swelling, you really don't know if you have an infection until there's pus and it's really too late. You have to reopen the wound, et cetera, et cetera. And so I learned all of that through papers as well. But then I hit a roadblock as I was preparing for a really large science competition, and I had to call up a microbiologist at the University of Iowa, which I happen to attend now, and bringing in that expertise is really what allowed me to get to those next levels. I actually also called the VA hospital. We happen to have one in Iowa City, to get expired sutures from their hospital system and use that as further testing and whatnot as well.
Okay, so in your process in getting your project to fruition, Sirish, and where we are now, who did you rely on? What expertise did you bring into play?
So for most of the project, it was just my parents acting as support, helping me get access to some of these parts. Partway through the project, there was this process of sampling to show the detector, this is what a produce item with pesticides looks like. This is what it looks like without pesticide residues. And my parents were able to help me through that quite a bit. And in terms of expertise, for this project, I was able just to find most of the help I needed through researching on papers, but I feel like it might have helped me if I had looked for that earlier, and that's something I'm looking at right now.
That being, you said at 3M, once you won the 3M competition or one stage of it, that you got a mentor that you could call. And can you talk a little bit about what that was like, what that person did, what you called them?
It was a great experience. So I got to work with my mentor from 3M. He was working in chemical engineering, and he gave me perspective as a scientist for when I got stuck, especially to help me figure out where to go from where I was. And that was really helpful throughout that whole process.
The reason why I'm bringing these things up is because there's a Yoruba proverb that says even the sharpest blade can't cut its own handle. Now, clearly, we have some very sharp people sitting here, but they required help to get further with things. I was telling them I had an experience when I was in high school. My mother was part of that catalyst. She asked me to do a science project on sickle cell anemia, and I didn't know what it was, but I was going to prove your parent that you can do what you can do. And so I called down to the Cook County Hospital in Chicago and asked to speak to the head of the hematology department. And I tell about this story in the book I wrote, Find Where the Wind Goes, where I'm talking to my 16-year-old self. But it really is about taking the initiative. Each one of you took initiative. Mm-hmm. And did you feel like people were receptive to it?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Were you surprised?
Yeah. I was not. My mom, I grew up with the notion that my mom taught me this lesson that you never need permission to speak to the CEO. And so, okay. And so I carry that over into any leading title, director, executive director, et cetera, et cetera. And so when that time came that I needed help, I recognized that I needed help. I didn't have a problem asking for it. I just didn't know who to go to in particular. But when I found out, kind of through networking and my neighbor is a microbiologist, you should talk to them, I had no problem going up to being like, hey, I'm a lowly little student trying to do this wonderful project. Please help me. And so many people are over the moon to help. No pun intended.
We'll go with it. We'll go with it. Were you surprised at the help?
So for me, I had just the community around me that were very supportive. And so Sometimes, yes. So I reached out to a couple of food security agencies here in the US, the FDA, and in Europe as well. And I was actually a little bit surprised to get reached back to, and that was helpful. It's shown me that people out there are really willing to help with these things.
Well, I was surprised when I called Cook County Hospital and they actually put me through, and the fellow actually talked to me. But that's okay because I had it out there like that. But the thing was, he required me to come down to the hospital to do work and prove in his lab that I knew work. And I knew how to do all these different things. And then eventually the head of the hematology department helped me with the project. And I was surprised that it went that far. But at the same time, each step of the way, there were people who were there willing to help, even if they didn't absolutely know you already. Is that? So here's what I'm gonna do. So, Sirish, you said that you want to use science to help solve problems.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one in society and in the world. So here's what I want to ask you. Tell me what science is. What's your definition of science?
To me, science comes in two parts. So it's curiosity, but you're backing it up with evidence to find answers. And then the second part is communicating that to the world in a language that's understandable to everyone. And then there's actually another subsection of it, which is taking that out to the world where we can apply it to solve problems. So those are the three components that I consider a key part of science.
And Dasia,
Yes, ma'am.
tell me, what's your definition of science?
I completely agree with Sirish. I would also add that science, as we spoke yesterday, is really a driver of innovation, which is the cornerstone of our society. And so, so I also preach curiosity in being able to, being quite literally able to think about and think clearly about the world in a way that you're able to solve with scientific data and studies and experiments, and use that as a driver to innovate. Does that make sense?
Does science have to exist in the face of innovation? Or does science have to exist to innovate?
I think yes. I think yes, because science is everything. Science is in everything. And so as I think about it, science is, given that it's everything, innovation is really moving into new parts of our world, and we're able to use science to drive that, if that makes sense. Woo. Man.
Well, you know where
Who
we're going
said
with
yes?
this in
Because
a
thank
minute.
you.
You know where we're going in a minute, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, so you're talking about science is in everything. So my question, what I want to ask you, is music science?
In parts, yes. There's also the art to it, because on top of the science that's at the core of it, of how it works, there's also the art of just expressing yourself through music. That can be done through science, and I see science as an art as well. But music, I feel, isn't solely science.
So can I try something?
Mhm.
Right? So you have the science and the art are both creative. Do you think they're both creative?
They have to
Right? And is that one of the problems you think happens in school, that kids are like, the science is going to creative because I have to read in this rote memorization book? So if they're both creative, what is the difference? For me, science is the universe as it can be experienced by everyone, in that, helping people to see that. And the arts are the universe, are you explaining a personal experience that to everyone. So maybe two sides of the,
Yeah.
maybe not two sides of the coin, but a continuum, some kind of way. So you told me that you love music.
I do love music.
And so would you be just as happy doing music as quote unquote doing science?
Absolutely, if I were good at it. Yes. I would have been sitting right there with Dougie Fresh. Absolutely.
So it seemed like people were surprised when we heard during the intro to the session that hip hop could have something to do with health and promoting health. Is that a surprise to you at all?
To me, it seems like the two could be definitely connected, as especially a means of communication through art as well of various forms is really helpful for science too. So I wasn't completely surprised by that.
Okay. Of course not. Right?
No, not at all. Not one bit. I feel like if you can spit a 16, you should be able to, communicate a science concept. And in my mind, they're one and the same.
And sometimes we remember more through those senses.
Absolutely.
Right? And through that different parts of the brain that experience the world.
My mom always told me, like, you better know that homework like you know those songs. And so I just, so absolutely to the communication point.
So as we're getting through this, I want to ask you, what does science have to do with our society? Is it a good, a bad, or a neutral? You got 10 seconds to answer.
So science is in general just a tool that can be used. It's powerful. It all comes down to who's wielding it.
And how you're using it. It's all three.
It worked last night, didn't it? We were having this conversation about, because a lot of times people in the sciences automatically assert that, science is a good. And so while we were talking, I would just whisper things, nuclear bomb, bullets, Agent Orange. And then that was a way of us coming around and really starting to think about what do we want to have happen. So I want to ask you a question, because I'm going to tell you a secret. It was not so much of a secret because it was said in the introduction.
Oh, okay.
We're all waiting for you to solve the problems that we create. Right?
Noted.
I run this program called 100 Year Starship, which is about making sure we have the capabilities for human travel beyond our solar system to another star in 100 years. And so, you all have to be good so that I can go on suspended animation and make the trip. However, what do you want our generation to be doing right now? What do you want our generation to be doing right now?
Okay. You're starting with me? Wonderful. So as it pertains to your generation, I think a lot of you have...
Which one? We got a bunch
I'm just gonna...
here. She
all
called
of
us
you,
older.
I did... Okay.
The younger people and the older generation. Here we go. The older generations.
Well, your generation, obviously having a lot of influence within your different spaces, I implore those of older generations to look beyond the students or the youth that are the anomaly. I am an anomaly in part. I had a lot of resources to get where I am. I know how to work a room like a boss, but there, But beyond that, there are a lot of students that don't even get to the chance of innovation because they don't know those skills. And I would really like to implore the older generation to look beyond just the shiny objects that are right in front of you. Just folks like me, and I can only speak from my experience. Because I was a palatable black person.
What do you want us to do? Because we're winding down.
Enough. So I just,
10 seconds.
looking
What do we
beyond,
need to do?
looking beyond the anomaly, the shiny object, the shiny youth, and upholding them. Yeah.
And what should we do? What do you want our generation to do?
So let's say there's a few things. Let me just list them
Okay.
briefly. First of all, there's just that belief that not just the people who have already made it to make these innovations, but everybody has these great ideas. It's building that support so that way they can take them out into the world. So that belief is one part. Then there's guidance, because since you're older, you just have more experience. And that experience would be really, really helpful to us. And it's really great when it's shared. Then from there, lastly, there's the idea of trying to leave behind a little bit of a better planet for us.
That would be great.
Would you go for us just stop messing up right now?
Yeah.
And then not even if we don't clean it up, at least leave it alone?
Yeah. Mind your business.
I want to, as we start to come to a close, there is a Yoruba proverb that says, if you wait for tomorrow, tomorrow comes. If you don't wait for tomorrow, tomorrow comes. So right now, we are all in a position where we know that we have remarkable talent and skills and enthusiasm waiting to help, as you said. But it doesn't just exist in the people who've already had the opportunities. You know, in many ways, we have opportunities in many different ways. I went to Chicago public schools at a time where public schools were a little bit different. And the teachers were a little bit different, and they had more field trips and things like that. You weren't doing as much rote memorization. But the big thing is the experience doing hands-on work. Did your experiences with science hands-on increase your love of it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Very much so. The idea of doing things hands-on is one of the things that actually made me like science, because I felt like I could actually have more of an impact with it, that I could do useful things with science.
So maybe the way I'm going to take away from this is that what we can do is to make sure that there's hands-on science education in every school. And that does not mean looking at a screen and watching the plant grow on the screen. It means growing the plant in the cup, right? Doing the actual physical work, watching beet juice change colors based on pH. All of those things we can do. I want to end this with, tell me what you want to be doing in 10 to 15 years from now.
For me, I want to be scientist and inventor 10 to 15 years down the line, still working actively on solutions to problems that impact people's lives directly, as well as working to communicate that science behind it. So the idea of bringing the public along to push science even further to more people.
And Dasia, what are your plans in the next 10 to 15 years?
Hopefully I will have sold a medtech company in 10 to 15 years. And and I'm not joking, but I do. But I'm also of the belief that innovation is important, and I do want to stay in that space. On the other hand, STEM education is so very important to me, and so I would love to continue to leverage my experience as an inventor, and an inventor of medical devices in particular, to continue to show kids, students, that things are possible beyond their belief. I'm currently trying to be something that I've never seen before, and so I want to give other students that opportunity to continue their learning and elevate as the society grows as well. We need to really play catch up, and so I want to be a part of the solution, the catalyst to have students catch up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Awesome. That's right.